Good day, my fellow men. And today we're going to study something that is considered by many as a rare skill. That is welding. And we're going to do this tutorial in English to benefit our fellow men that may not speak Tagalog. Hopefully, we can be small instruments for you to learn welding. You know what? Welding is an in-demand skill all across the globe because there's only a few people who can weld in various countries. Because it's something that a lot of people get intimidated by. For example, you see someone welding, you see the sparks flying, you'd be like, I don't think this profession is for me. Yeah, it kind of looks, a bit too risky. You'd hear people saying like, "Oh, that's very dangerous." A lot of people have died doing that job. They've got stories like that, but none of them's true. It is not true that it's very dangerous to learn how to weld. But of course, you must know what you're doing. And as always, safety is first. First up, you must have footwear. Don't weld wearing only slippers or bare feet because of course welding uses electricity. So if you're bare feet and you're grounded, there's a high possibility that you'll get electrocuted because your feet are on the ground. So to avoid getting shocked, wear appropriate footwear. Of course it has to be dry because maybe you'll wear a pair of shoes and socks but they're wet. Well, you'll still be grounded. So wear your footwear, it has to be dry. Put gear on, put your gloves on. If you're only going to work on small things, an apron would be enough. And this thing over here is for the arm. Because of course when welding, embers would fly off. So you'll have this to protect yourself from being burned. So put that on. And with the apron then, now this should be enough if you're only going to work on small things. Now if you're going to work on a factory, you're going to work on big things, you're going to be welding the whole day, you should be wearing a suit for welding. It's like a jacket that is made of leather as well. It's the same, it's thick. So the first thing that you need to do, make sure you have gear. And a problem sometimes, people when they're starting to weld, they're gonna quit straight away. Why? Because when I started welding, I got sand on my eye. Because what did they do? Because yes, they did have a mask. They have a mask. They started welding around this area. The welding, it produces smoke. The smoke can be powerful. So when the smoke comes in, you're letting it go inside your mask. It'll go into your eye and you're able to inhale it as well, which is bad for your lungs. And it goes into your eye because they think that spark that happens in welding is the only thing that affects your eye. That's not the only thing that can affect your eye, but the smoke as well. So if you're welding, you should have a fan. Like over here, if you can see, we have an electric fan here. When we're welding, we're turning on the fan so that the smoke goes away from you instead of onto you. Goes to your skin, goes to your eye. You should be doing that. Second thing, don't you ever forget to wear a mask because there are those, they're going to close their eyes and they're going to weld by feeling. Well, when they look at their work, what they're welding is destroyed. We shouldn't be like that. Let us use gear. Safety first. That's what we should always remember. First thing we're going to do is to study the machine. If you see our machine here that we brought here, it's very small. Back then, when I was younger, maybe you've experienced this before because you're older than me. The welding machines are bigger. They're so heavy. I would see it before. It would take 4 people to carry the welding machines. Now it's tiny. Back then, when I was younger, I would see when people would weld something upstairs, they're not going to bring the whole machine because it's very heavy. Where are you going to put it upstairs? What they're going to do is they're going to cut the wire and then extend it until it reach wherever it is they're going to weld, including the ground. They're going to weld upstairs. But now we can carry the welding machine itself, put it on your shoulder, and you can start welding. Now you can see in our welding machine, there is a control here. There's a control, and there are 2 wires. This wire is what we call ground. Whatever metal you're going to weld, you must attach this. So let's say this is your piece of metal. If you're going to weld this, you must attach the ground. And then you can start welding. This is what they call ground. And this is what you call the handle. This is where you're going to attach the welding rod. That's why there are like slots here for different positions. There's one for this angle, this, and even one that is straight like this. Because it depends on your use. It's up to you which angle you're comfortable with. This welding handle, don't forget, it's always attached on the positive slot. If you see the slots here, we both have the negative and positive slots. The handle is for the positive. There you go. It's very easy to attach. This handle is for the positive. It's easy to attach. There's like a groove. That's the hook. That thing. Attach it to the hole. There's like a groove as well where you're going to put it in. Turn it right. When it stops turning, it's attached. And this is the one for the negative, the ground. Same procedure, there's a groove. Match it, put it in, and turn it to the right. That is how you attach it. If you see here, we have here what you call a control. It's like a dial with different numbers. There's 10, 20, 40, 60, 80, 100, 120, 140. This is the amperes. Amperes. Amperes in Portuguese. The reason you have this is so that you can control the amperes needed. Because welding, you have to do it in different strengths that you need. Because in welding, there are different sizes of welding rods. There are different sizes of welding rods. I have here with me a few rods of different sizes. This is a 2mm rod. This welding rod, you would need around 50 to 70 amperes. This is the 2.5mm welding rod. This is a bit thicker compared to the 2mm one. This 2.5mm one, the amperes needed here is 60 to 90 amperes. Remember, 60 to 90 amperes for the 2.5mm welding rod. And this is the 3.2mm welding rod. And the amperes needed for this starts anywhere between 90 until 140 amperes. And there are other welding rods that are even thicker than these ones. There's a 4mm and even a 5mm rod, which I don't have with me right now. Now, this welding rod, if you can see it, the metal is somewhat covered by this powdery type material. These are various chemicals that they've used. These chemicals are very important because when you're using the welding rod and it's hot, these chemicals produce various types of gases, and these gases help you control the shape of the metal that you're welding. Because as you know, metal, when it reaches a certain temperature, it becomes liquid. And if it's liquid, for example, water, put it there, it'll just drop, it'll spread. That's what's going to happen in the metal that we're welding if these gases are not produced by this powder-like coating of the rod. So let us not complain if embers are flying off. That's okay because this coating plays an important role towards what you're welding. If you see, this is what acts like a cover, like a plaque. It covers what you're welding so that it is shaped to what you want it to be. Because without this, what's going to happen is that the heat will just melt the metal and you're just going to burn through a hole. You cannot do the welding. But because of this powdery coating, you can weld. You can attach metal together. You can strengthen them. That's why we should know bits and pieces about what's going on when we're welding. So we won't be easily discouraged. Like someone I know, they're starting to study welding. I don't want to study anymore. I got burnt. That's why you have to put safety first. There are those that would blame the actual machine. They're complaining. There are other welding machines, like the MIG welding. It's very good. Yes, the MIG welding is very good. It's very expensive. This machine, I only bought it for 400 reais. I asked about the MIG welding. It costs 4,000 reais. Compared to this electrode welding machine, it's only 10% of the cost of a MIG welding machine. And when it comes to the MIG welding, that 4,000, that's only the machine. If you're going to weld using MIG, you're going to have to buy a tank worth of gas. Because it has like a gas that should always be part of the tank. That's the gas that fulfills the function of this powder coating. The MIG, you have to buy the gas. Okay, you don't have the embers flying off. It's just the rod. But it's still producing the gas for you to be able to control what you're welding. That is the purpose of the tank of MIG welding. Which you can achieve with a bit of patience, a smaller investment, especially if you're going to put up a welding shop or some shop wherein you can create gates. Well, just be a bit patient with this one so you can save a lot of money. Now we're going to show you the various ways, various techniques in welding. How do you use these rods? That's what we're going to show in the next episode of this welding lessons. Thank you very much.